Exposed. My daughter sold our 3M ranch, then surprised me with a life-changing 16,000 check. Jack felt the sun rising on his back like a warm embrace as he milled about his sprawling Texas ranch, the only life he really knew. The air smelled of grass and hard work, heavy with the weight of what this place meant. Each creak of the barn and every snort of his horses echoed stories of the past. His father's sweat poured into the land, his mother's laughter mixing with the wind. But today a chill ran down his spine, something electrifying simmering beneath the surface. It came barreling through the dusty road, a silver SUV he recognized from years past. Jack's heart raced as he wiped his hands on his worn jeans, dread and confusion intertwining in his chest. And then she stepped out, her vibrant personality radiating into the sun. Sarah, his only daughter, looking every bit the artist she had become. Her bright scarf danced in the wind, a free spirit that had wandered far away from this ranch, this home. Seeing her again brought a rush of bittersweet emotion, memories bubbling up uninvited. Dad. Her voice trembled, tugging at his heart, a mirror reflecting the little girl he used to know. Jack shifted, a lump forming in his throat. I never thought I'd see you again, Sarah. He forced a smile, fighting the wave of resentment threatening to swallow him whole. After years of silence, this moment was anything but simple. They stood there, the land before them brimming with unspoken words. It felt like everything had to be said at once. The hurt from her leaving, his disappointment, the longing to reclaim what once was. Then her words took the air right out of his lungs. Dad, I sold the ranch. The world around him blurred, the horizon shrinking, the weight of betrayal crashing over him like a summer storm. What do you mean you sold it? He rasped, his voice breaking. This isn't just land. It's my legacy. Anger flared. This wasn't simply a business deal, it wasn't just dollars and cents. I know, Dad. I never wanted to hurt you, but this is my life. She held out a check that seemed to pulse with guilt and longing, a mere 16,000. A drop in the ocean of pain that brewed between them. Please take this as a share, let us fix this. He looked into her eyes, searching for the little girl who used to ride beside him, the same one who had laughed while chasing butterflies. Instead, he found a woman with fierce dreams. Jack's chest tightened. Could he really sacrifice this place, this legacy his parents had given their lives for? Drawing breath into his daily struggle? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The silence stretched out, thicker than the oppressive summer heat. His mind raced. If he took the money, what would it mean for their bond? What about the ranch, the dreams he defined himself by? Yet, the gleam in Sarah's eye told him she was trying to climb out of the confines of what was expected. Just then the fence creaked nearby, its sound echoing like an omen. Would Jack allow this moment to be a fork in the road, the point where their paths diverged forever? Or would he reach out, risk the familiar pain for a chance to reconnect with his daughter? His heart raced, ready to explode with confusion and hope. All that was left was to decide if he would let go or hold on tighter than ever. Would he step into the unknown, or retreat into the shadows of unhealed wounds? As silence enveloped them, the ranch stood witness to their fractured legacy, leaving the question lingering: what would he choose? Jack's heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing in the silence that hung heavy between him and Sarah. The sun beat down, casting long shadows across the land that had shaped his entire existence. He wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her understand the weight of her actions. Yet, a small voice deep within him whispered to listen. Wasn't that what he had always wanted? Communication, honesty, and a connection with the daughter he had lost to the world? Just tell me why, Sarah, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Why would you do this? After everything? His chest tightened, pinching the bitter feelings hiding beneath the surface. She looked away for a brief moment, her eyes scanning the skyline, tracing the path of distant memories. Finally, she gathered her courage, meeting his gaze head-on. Because, Dad, I felt trapped. I needed to create something for myself. Art 1T pay the bills if I'm tied to a ranch. Those words hit harder than a punch. The truth stung, and Jack felt as if the very foundation of their relationship was shifting beneath him. You think this place is just bills to me? It's a part of who I am. It's history, it's family. Tears welled in her eyes, shining more than the Texas sun. And so is our relationship, Dad. But I can't keep living for someone else's dreams. I have dreams too. The passion behind her words was palpable, lighting a spark within Jack that momentarily softened his anger. The anger that had fueled him transformed into something raw fear. Fear that this could be the last thread tying them together, and once severed, they might never find their way back. Just let me have a conversation about it, he pleaded, softer now, his voice a whisper. Please let us not do this in anger. In that moment, beneath the tension and disappointment, he recognized a glimmer of the father he always wanted to be, not the prisoner of his pride. I don't want to fight, Dad, Sarah said, her voice breaking. I want us to build something together. I want you to see me, to understand why I did this. The ranch, with its grazing fields and hoofprints, stood in a stillness that echoed the unsaid. Jack felt the pull of memories, the laughter of family dinners and the late-night stories under starlit skies. This land represented all he had worked for, but also a tether holding back the light of the daughter he missed. What if he accepted her choice? What if they could reshape their relationship on new terms? Jack's gut twisted at the thought of losing the ranch, but losing Sarah again felt far worse. I don't know if I can accept the ranch being gone, he admitted, revealing the vulnerability that lay beneath his tough exterior. It's everything. And you'll still have your memories. She reached out, her fingers brushing his weathered hands. But we can still create new ones together. Ones that aren't anchored here. Her warmth spilled over his skin like the sun, igniting something deep within him. Jack took a deep breath, trying to rid himself of the panic that tightened around his heart. Okay, he said, his voice barely above a murmur. Okay, let us talk about this. The corners of her mouth turned up, a glimpse of the bright spark he remembered from her childhood. But as they stood together, the choice stretched before them like an open road full of twists and turns they couldn't begin to predict. Just as they began to walk down this new path, a distant sound caught Jack's attention, a rustling in the barn. Something wasn't right. Before he could voice his concern, the gate swung open, revealing a figure that made his breath catch in his throat. Who would dare intrude now that everything was in question? Jack. The stranger barked. We need to talk. Suddenly, all the possibility of healing hung precariously in the air, on the verge of being shattered. Whose threatened presence lurked at the door of their fragile moment? Would they ever be able to escape the past, or the unexpected weight of their futures? Jack's heart raced as he took in the figure before him, a man he hadn't seen in years but knew instantly. Jason, an old business partner from days long past, stood there with an urgency in his eyes that sent a shiver down Jack's spine. The shadows cast across the dusty barn looked darker now, as if a storm was brewing on the horizon. What do you want, Jason? Jack's voice was low, holding a mixture of resentment and a hint of wariness. I heard about your daughter, Jason replied, stepping closer. We need to discuss the implications of her decisions. It's bigger than just the ranch, Jack. Sarah remained silent, her expression caught somewhere between confusion and irritation. The weight of the conversation shifted, and Jack could feel tension creeping in once more. He glanced over at her, wanting to protect his daughter from the looming specter of their family business, and the secrets buried within. What are you implying? Jack fixed his gaze back on Jason, heart beating faster. My daughter's dreams are not something to be discussed over coffee, Jason. If this is about the sale is only the tip of the iceberg, Jason interrupted, cutting Jack off. This ranch holds equity and assets. If she goes through with this, it's not just her life that changes. It's yours too. Jack felt his stomach twist. Memories of hard work, late nights, and hope rolled in like waves crashing against a shore, each one echoing within him. Fear gnawed at him. Fear that everything could be stripped away or entangled in something he didn't understand. But this is our home, my home, Jack said, his eyes pleading, searching for understanding for both the present and the past. Home is where the heart is, Jack, Jason said, his voice softening slightly. But maybe your heart is in the wrong place. Sarah shifted, brow furrowing as she took in the conversation. What do you mean by that? Just say it, Jason. You don't have to listen to him, Sarah, Jack warned, sensing the unease rippling through her. He's just trying to get under our skin. Suddenly, Jason took a step back, shaking his head. I'm not here to hurt either of you. I've got news. If you're not careful, your father's legacy and your future could change in ways you might not be prepared for. Jack took a deep breath. What kind of news? Jason glanced behind him, as if ensuring the conversation remained private. I just came from the courthouse. There's a clause in the original deed. If Jack doesn't execute an arbitration clause within a month, you could lose everything tied to this property, including the rights entirely. The reality of those words struck Jack like a lightning bolt. What are you talking about? I don't understand. It means someone could take it all from you. This place, everything, it could vanish, Jason replied, frustration spilling over. You need to act now. And you need to work together. Jack and Sarah exchanged a glance, the weight of Jason's revelation hanging heavily between them. Everything they had just begun to mend hung precariously on the brink of being pulled apart once more. Jack's mind flared with possibilities and fears. Could they really lose their home, their connection, their family again so quickly? Sarah, we need to focus on this, he said, voice firming up as he took a step toward her. We might not agree on everything, but we can't let this happen. As the sun set behind them, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Jack saw determination taking root in Sarah's eyes. What do we do now? She asked, her voice steadier than he had expected. Before Jack could reply, Sarah's phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She glanced at the screen, reading the message and turning pale. I think you both need to see this. What lay ahead loomed dark and daunting, but Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite in the midst of chaos. Would they be able to work together, even with everything pulling them apart? Only time would tell as they faced an impending storm that threatened to unravel their lives once more. But despite the turbulent reality, one question clung to Jack's heart. Could they put aside their differences and survive not just the loss of the ranch, but the unraveling of their relationship as father and daughter? Jack stood frozen for a moment, watching Sarah's expression shift from concern to shock. He could feel the adrenaline pulsing through him as he strained to see the screen of her phone. What is it? He asked, his voice tighter than he intended. Panic crept in, clenching at his chest. It's from the realtor, Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. They've received an offer. An aggressive one. They want to finalize it before the arbitration clause is even in place. The air grew thick with uncertainty. Jack's mind raced, trying to process the implications. Did the offer come in response to Jason's warning? Were there forces at play wanting to catch them off guard? Is it a good offer? Jack asked, though he could hear the tremor in his voice. The weight of Jason's news hung over them like a dark cloud, and he wasn't ready to face the possibility of losing it all. Sarah's lips pressed into a thin line as she read over the message again. It's significant. They're offering nearly full price. But? Jack pushed, stepping closer. They're asking for everything to be cleared within a week. Dad, we don't have time. Her eyes searched his face, looking for support, for strength he felt he was losing. Jack squeezed his eyes shut for a second, trying to gather his thoughts. A week? Everything. Anxiety spooled through him like a tight coil. We need to think this through. We can't rush into something like this, especially with what Jason said about the arbitration clause. Sarah turned, frustration flaring in her eyes. I know. But if we don't act now, we could lose everything anyway, right? We might not have a choice. There was the tension again, crackling in the air, and Jack hated it. This wasn't just about business. It was their lives, their family. I just want you to be certain that this is what you want, he said, his voice dropping soft but steady. You've dreamed of leaving the ranch, chasing your own path. I don't want you to make a hasty decision. It's not hasty. Sarah shot back, visibly hurt. This is my future too. The ranch is your dream, Dad, but it doesn't have to be mine. I need you to trust me. Trust that I know what I want. Silence filled the barn, heavy and tense. Jack's heart felt like it was caught in a vice. He had always wanted the best for Sarah, but now it seemed like their desires were irreparably different. Jason cleared his throat, shifting slightly. This offer could save your family from even more issues. A quick sale could provide options you weren't prepared for. Jack turned his focus to Jason. Options? What options? Money can solve many problems, Jack. It may not be the ranch, but it could be a fresh start. Jason's voice was calm, yet there was an edge beneath it. Jack wasn't sure if he trusted those words. Sarah looked between both men, her eyes scanning for clarity. What if we took the offer and then worked out the arbitration clause together? She suggested softly. At least we have the cash to fight for what's ours. All while risking everything we've built? Jack felt his patience thin. Do you really think walking away is the answer? Just because it's easy? In that moment he saw determination waver in Sarah's eyes. I don't know, she murmured, hurt etching deep lines on her young face. But what if we lose out on this? What if Jason is right and we wait too long? The tension shifted again, wrapping tightly around them. Jack felt like he was caught between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, protecting Sarah's dreams was paramount, but on the other, the fear of losing their lifetime's work loomed larger than life itself. Before he could speak again, Sarah's phone buzzed once more, startling them all. She grabbed it, and Jack noted the panic returning to her face. It's from the buyer, she gasped. They're threatening to pull the offer if we don't respond immediately. Jack's heart sank. The clock was ticking, and the burden of choice hung heavily upon him. Could they truly forge a path through this storm? Or were they destined to lose everything? As he looked at Sarah, the weight of the moment was undeniable. A pathway of decisions sprawled out before them, and not all of them led to safety. Would they fight for what they had or step away for a chance at freedom? In the silence, one question burned bright. Could he trust Sarah to make the right choice when everything they both loved hung in the balance? Jack's heart raced as he watched Sarah's fingers fly over the keyboard, the urgency of each tap echoing in the barn's otherwise still air. He stood rooted to the spot, his body torn between instinct and reason. The two of them were teetering on the edge of a precipice, and he struggled to catch his breath. Sarah, wait! He blurted out, a hint of desperation creeping into his tone. Let us just pause for a second. We need to consider every possible angle before jumping into a decision like this. She paused, her head snapping up, eyes wide and bright with emotion. I get that you're scared, Dad, but look around. Everything we worked for, everything we've built here, it could all be gone in a heartbeat if we don't act. But we have a chance. We can take control of this. Control. The word hit him hard. It felt like the one thing he'd lost in all this chaos. I want to support you, I truly do, he said, taking a step nearer, hoping to bridge the chasm between them. But running from that's not the answer. Sarah shook her head, frustration rolling off her in waves. I'm not running. This is about moving forward. For once, I want to make a choice that's mine. Can't you see that? Jack opened his mouth to argue, but it caught in his throat. He wanted so badly to protect her, to keep her anchored to what they knew, to the ranch. Yet he also knew how suffocating the weight of his expectations had been for her. He took a breath, forcing calmness into the stormy seas of his heart. What do you need from me, Sarah? Tell me. Her gaze softened, the fire flickering slightly. I need you to trust me. We can negotiate, we can plan. But first, I need to reply before this offer slips away. Trust, the word tasted foreign on his tongue. Trust requires taking risks. Maybe you're right, but it feels like we're playing with fire. Jason cleared his throat, ever the mediator. Jack, this is a vital opportunity. Sarah's instincts might just save you both. Instead of clinging to what you fear losing, perhaps you should consider the opportunities ahead. The weight of Jason's suggestion settled deep within him. Jack had always prided himself on being the protector, the steady hand guiding his family through life's unpredictable challenges. But now, the idea of letting go felt both terrifying and liberating. What if we counter-offer? Jack suggested tentatively, eyes darting between Sarah and Jason. Something to safeguard our interests while still getting things moving in a positive direction. Sarah's face brightened just a shade, the hope creeping back into her expression. That could work. We could outline our concerns about the arbitration clause right there in the response. Jack nodded, a tentative plan knitting itself in his mind. But only if you promise me we won't let our eagerness jump ahead of careful thought. We'll keep our expectations in check too. We have to consider everything. Deal. She smiled brightly, the tension slowly easing from her features. It was a small victory, an anchor in the storm, but it felt like a breakthrough nonetheless. All right then, Jason interjected, his tone firm and practical. Let us draft a response that reflects your position clearly and assertively. Jack watched as Sarah dove into the task, typing swiftly, her brow furrowed in concentration. Each keystroke seemed to contribute to both their futures. It felt as if together they were building a bridge over the chasm of uncertainty that loomed before them. But somewhere in his heart Jack couldn't shake a lingering unease. They might be taking a step forward, but he couldn't ignore the haunting idea that the offer wasn't just a blessing. What if it came with strings he couldn't yet see? He felt a knot tightening in his stomach. What if this decision, the one that should set them free, ultimately cost them more than they imagined? Before he could voice any of this, Sarah's phone buzzed again, drawing them all into a moment of anxiety. They all exchanged glances, shared worries reflected in each face. "What now?" Jack asked, his voice low. "It's the buyer," Sarah whispered, her hand trembling slightly as she clicked open the message. They want an answer now. In that moment, with anticipation humming in the air, it was clear. They were on the brink of something, but would it be the stepping stone to salvation or a free fall into the unknown? Sarah's eyes flicked back and forth across the screen, her face a mixture of excitement and dread. It felt surreal, like a hiccup of time, her fingers hovering over the keyboard as if they were defying gravity. Jack's heart sank as he tried to read her thoughts. What would happen if she just said yes? "Look, if we take this leap, we need to prepare for the fall," Jack said, trying to bring a sense of calm to the swirling storm of emotions. "Let us not rush into this." "But Dad, we've waited long enough," she shot back, her voice lifting slightly, echoing in the barn. "This isn't just about the ranch. It's about our future. I can't let this slip away because of fear." The conviction in her voice struck a chord in Jack. He wanted to protect her, but he also saw something new blooming in her. An independence he'd always known was there, but now it was glowing, radiant. He couldn't take that away from her. Jason chimed in, "It's now or never, Jack. If we don't respond today, we risk everything. This could be the opportunity to rewrite your story." Jack's gaze fell onto the dusty wooden beams overhead. The ranch wasn't just land. It was every memory, every heartbeat of their lives together. Suddenly that weight felt heavier than ever. "Okay," he breathed, piecing together his thoughts. "What's the counteroffer?" Sarah's determination fueled his resolve. "We can ask for a longer closure period. This will give us time to evaluate everything. And we definitely need to clarify the arbitration clause, it's non-negotiable." With each keystroke, Sarah's confidence surged, overtaking her earlier apprehension. Jack marveled at how quickly she slipped into this new role, a shrewd negotiator. His little girl turned into a force of nature. "Simon, Dad. Help me with this." She laughed nervously, her fingers dancing with excitement. "What do you think?" Jack leaned in closer, feeling that familiar warmth spreading in his chest. "Pride. Let us add, we value this offer but can only proceed under the condition that way, we're not just accepting whatever they throw at us." He guided, his voice steady. The glowing words piled up on the screen as they collaborated, creating a shield around their worries. All of a sudden, the barn felt smaller, almost intimate, filled with a surge of possibility as they hit the send button. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "It's done." Jack took a step back, looking at her, a mixture of awe and apprehension on his face. "And now?" Sarah glanced over, hopeful but uncertain. "Now we wait, I guess." Time felt suspended, the air thick with anticipation. They exchanged nervous glances, knowing the weight of their decision rested in that digital message. Would it lead them to a new beginning, or would it ignite a chain of unforeseen challenges? The silence wrapped around them, a tangible thing, until Sarah's phone buzzed once more, cutting through the tension. Jack's heart raced anew. "What is it?" She stared at the screen, white-knuckled as dread pooled in her stomach. "It's the buyer they want to meet." "Meet?" Jack repeated, bewildered. "Why do they want to meet?" Sarah hesitated, and Jack felt the tightening of apprehension creeping back. "I don't know, but if they want to talk, it can't be for anything good." The brightness of their earlier triumph dimmed as the gravity of the moment settled in. Revelations loomed on the horizon, threatening to alter everything they'd just fought for. "Are we ready for whatever comes next?" Jack asked, the question hovering in the air between them like a ghost. "I guess we'll find out soon," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper, filled with uncertainty. And as they locked eyes, the world outside suddenly faded away, their future unwritten and waiting just beyond the barn doors. What awaited them on the other side? The tension crackled in the air as they stood there, the barn dimly illuminated by the fading sun streaming through wooden slats. Jack's heart pounded. He felt like a diver poised at the edge of a diving board, nervous but determined to leap. Sarah's finger seemed glued to her phone screen, ready to respond. Should we tell them we want to decide on our terms? Jack suggested. They can't push us around like this. We have the right to transparency, Sarah responded, her eyes narrowing with resolve. It's our land after all. Each word she spoke brought a wave of warmth through Jack. His little girl was growing into someone fierce and capable. She was no longer that timid child who once clutched his hand while exploring the ranch. Now she faced strangers with a willingness to fight for what belonged to them. All right. Let us do it, he replied, infusing a sense of urgency into his tone. We should meet them on our terms. Sarah took a deep breath, and Jack watched as she wrestled with her emotions. She was on the brink of something significant, and they both understood the weight of the step they were about to take. What if they don't respect us? She murmured, the vulnerability in her voice cutting through his bravado. They will, he replied, standing taller, his voice steady. We need to show them that we won't be dismissed. We're not just placeholders in this deal. We both deserve to be heard. Sarah nodded, chewing her lower lip. The brief spark of fear in her eyes ignited a fierce determination. Let us ask for a meeting tomorrow morning, she said. We need time to gather our thoughts. I want to know what they're really after and prepare my questions. Agreed, Jack said, pride swelling in his heart. A moment passed as their resolve settled like a comforting blanket. But it didn't last long. Sarah's phone buzzed again, its sharp chirp piercing the heaviness that had accumulated between them. What now? Jack asked, adrenaline surging. They want to meet tonight. The news hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. Jack felt his heart drop. Tonight? He echoed. Do they think we can just drop everything? Sarah's eyes danced with anxiety, but beneath that lay a flicker of excitement. We can't ignore them. If they're eager, it might mean they need us as much as we need them. This could be our advantage. Jack clenched his fists, contemplating their next move. Okay, but we go in prepared. We need to know what we want before we agree to anything. I have some documents we can look over, notes from our negotiations. Let us make a list of questions to ask, Sarah suggested, her voice gaining strength. They hurriedly sifted through papers, the clock ticking down their remaining moments of preparation. Jack felt the adrenaline surge through him. They had fought tooth and nail to keep the ranch alive. This was just another battle in a long war. With every passing minute, the buzzing anticipation in his chest grew heavier, more intense. But it also ignited a fire of hope. The path before them twisted and turned, but Jack took solace in knowing one thing for sure. They wouldn't face it alone. As they stepped out of the barn and into the twilight, an unsettling chill swept across the land, rustling the tall grass. Jack looked over at Sarah, standing tall beside him. Ready? He asked, his voice low but steady. She took a deep breath, holding his gaze. Together, right? Always, he affirmed. And as they walked towards the unknown, the spark of possibility crackled between them, more potent than fear. What awaited them in that meeting? Would they emerge emboldened and enlightened? Or would it shake the very roots they were trying to protect? A wave of uncertainty washed over him as they stepped forward into the evening, knowing that whatever happened next would change everything. Would they embrace a new future? Or would they find a ghost of their past waiting to haunt them? The drive to the meeting felt like they were traversing a different world. The once familiar roads blurred into shadows, and the landscape shifted from rolling fields to sporadic patches of light and dark where clusters of trees stood like sentinels. Jack cast a sidelong glance at Sarah, who sat next to him, her brow slightly furrowed in concentration. Are you okay? He asked, embroiled in his worries for her. Yeah, just thinking, she replied, absent-mindedly tapping her fingers on her knee. He couldn't shake the worry gnawing at him. The stakes felt higher than usual. This wasn't just about land. It was about their legacy. The ranch had been in the family for generations, a repository of dreams and memories. The thought of it slipping away was unbearable. As they pulled into the gravel parking lot of the local diner where the meeting was set to take place, Jack parked the truck and cut the engine. Let us get our game faces on, he said, attempting to inject some confidence into the moment. Sarah nodded. But the tension in her jaw told a different story. Together, they gathered their documents and notes, and stepped onto the paths of uncertainty and potential transformation. The diner was a small, unassuming building adorned with neon lights, and the buzzing hum of evening conversations. The aroma of grilled burgers and fried food wafted through the air, which felt strangely comforting. But as soon as they stepped inside, a wave of doubt washed over Jack. They found a booth in the corner where they had a clear view of the entrance and slid into the worn leather seats. Clutching her phone, Sarah glanced at the time, nervously checking for texts that did not arrive. What if they don't show? She asked, betraying her anxiety. They will, Jack reassured her. They need us as much as we need them. Remember that. Just then the door swung open, and in walked 3 figures. Jack's stomach tightened. He recognized them immediately. The developers from the big city, dressed sharply in suits that contrasted sharply against the modest diner aesthetic. Speak of the devil, he muttered under his breath. Sarah's expression shifted to one of defiance. The men approached, one of them the lead negotiator offering a scarcely sincere smile. Glad you could meet us on such short notice, he said, voice smooth but lacking genuine warmth. Let us get straight to it, Sarah interjected, her tone firm. We have some questions. Jack beamed with pride. This was the Sarah he had raised, fierce and unyielding. As they settled in, papers spread between them, Sarah leaned forward, her eyes flashing with determination. First off, we want to know what you're planning to do with our land, she stated matter-of-factly. The lead negotiator shared a glance with his colleagues, a bemused smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. We think there's considerable potential for development. And potential for who? Interrupted Jack, feeling the heat rising in his cheeks. For the community? Or just for your pockets? The room was thick with tension, each person weighing their next words. Jack felt the stakes elevate as if invisible hands were gripping his throat. Sarah's fingers danced around the edges of the documents, waiting to unleash their power. We need transparency here, she said, her voice steadier now, infused with urgency. The determination in her eyes pierced through the uncertainty cloaking the room. They exchanged words, volleying questions and assertions back and forth, each moment an eruption of energy, as both sides wrestled for control of the narrative. Jack could feel the ferocity building inside him, but also something else, an exhilarating sense of purpose. They were standing their ground. They were defined by their heritage. But just when he thought they'd gained some momentum, the lead negotiator dropped a bombshell, sending ripples of shock through Jack's gut. We have an offer on the table, an amount that exceeds any expectations you might have had. Sarah stiffened, staring back at him, her breath hitching. What do you mean? His explanation rang hollow, flashing. Numbers that twisted Jack's stomach into knots. He stole a glance at Sarah. Can T wait for this situation to end? Desperation radiating from her. Let me understand this clearly, Sarah said, resolutely cutting through the confusion. You want us to sign a deal based on what exactly? The silence morphed into a cloud of anxiety, settling heavily between them. Jack felt the tension crackle like summer lightning. Would this last exchange edge them closer to a deal? Or would it drive them into deeper isolation? Unearthing family ghosts they never intended to confront. As they awaited the negotiator's response, time seemed to stretch interminably, suspended in anticipation of what was to come. Would this moment bring clarity or chaos? And then it dawned on Jack. The future of their ranch hung in the balance. Tonight, every decision would echo through their lives. Would they find hope or heartbreak? The silence was deafening, wrapping around them like a thick fog. Jack's heart raced as he searched Sarah's eyes for some sign of resolve, some indication that they had a chance to wrestle control of the conversation. But all he saw was uncertainty mixed with fiery determination. The developers exchanged knowing glances, their confidence radiating as if the outcome had already been sealed. The lead negotiator cleared his throat, leaning forward. This offer will set you up for generations. Imagine what you could do with that money. His eyes glinted with something cold, something calculating. You could invest in new ventures or travel, or just take a break from the hassle of managing this old ranch. Jack's fists clenched around the edge of the table. This isn't about a vacation or luxury. This is our home. What do you expect? Sarah shot back, her voice rising above the uneasiness. You come in here like you own the place, throwing numbers when you have no idea what this land means to us, To our family. The negotiator raised an eyebrow, a condescending smile touching his lips. Homes can be replaced, Sarah. Wealth can't. Jack felt a jolt of anger surge through him at the implication. He had always known that for some people profit overshadowed principles. Yet the revelation hit harder now. It wasn't just about land, it was about values. Every tree on that ranch tells a story, Jack found himself saying. Every rock, every riverbank, and every sunset it's woven into who we are. We are not just a name on a piece of paper. There was a beat of hesitation in the room, and Jack seized the moment. You need to understand, we're not here to just sell out. We're here to protect our heritage. He shot an encouraging glance toward Sarah, who responded with a slight nod. Despite the tremor in her voice, compliance was unfathomable for them. They wouldn't bend easily. And your generous offer will not buy what we are willing to fight for. Sarah spoke fiercely, her gaze unwavering. The fire in her eyes sparked something in Jack, an unyielding hope growing amidst the storm of uncertainty. Well then, the lead negotiator said, the smugness seeping back into his tone, I suppose we can take a moment to reconsider. He casually flipped through his stack of papers, as though he assumed they would soon give in as they waited for him to speak again. Jack didn't just feel a knot in his stomach, he felt courage. What if this meeting could lead to something extraordinary? What if they could make a stand for their ranch and avoid the shame of selling it to city folks who couldn't possibly understand its worth? What if we turned the tables? Sarah's voice broke through the swirling thoughts. What if we proposed something different? Instead of selling, what if we collaborated? The developers exchanged glances, the shift in dynamics unmistakable. Jack felt a rush of adrenaline. Could they actually reshape this entire negotiation? Could they transform a conversation about selling their home into a chance for partnership? The lead negotiator studied Sarah for a long moment. Collaborate how? With a deep breath, Sarah began to flesh out her idea, blending hope with determination. She spoke about community events, sustainable agriculture, and preserving the land for generations to come, their voices intertwining like the roots of the ancient trees in the yard. Jack watched as the developers leaned in, the flicker of interest catching in their eyes. It was a seed of possibility, stirring something deep within him, but before they could fully explore it, a loud crash echoed across the diner, causing the glasses on their table to rattle. The door was flung open, and an unexpected figure rushed in, someone Jack hadn't seen in years. All their attention blinked towards the entrance, surprise carving lines in the negotiator's cool demeanor. Dad! I found you! The voice rang out and Jack's heart plummeted. Who was it? What did he want? In that instant, the precarious balance of their evening shifted entirely. Jack's mind raced, caught somewhere between the past and the present, as he faced an upheaval that could change everything. What did this newcomer have to do with their fight? In the midst of the tension-filled diner, emotions boiled as Jack turned to see a familiar face, David, an old family friend and former ranch hand, barging through the door, breathless and wide-eyed. The air crackled with the weight of uncertainty. Jack's heart sank. David had been a trusted ally and confidant, but he had left the ranch years ago, following a fallout over Jack's stubbornness. What could he possibly want now? Jack, I need to talk to you now, David called out, scanning the faces around the table. The developers watched with detached curiosity, likely intrigued by this unexpected interruption. Jack's face flushed with apprehension. He glanced at Sarah, whose uncertainty mirrored his own. Is this a private matter? The lead negotiator asked, clearly annoyed by David's disruptive appearance. We're in the middle of an important discussion here. Ignoring the man, Jack waved David over. What's going on? Is everything all right? David rushed to their booth, his eyes darting with urgency. I just heard about the offer. It's not just a good deal. I know the developers through other sources. They're planning much more than they're letting on. They don't just want the ranch, they want to take it off the map. Jack felt the floor beneath him shift. What are you saying? Listen, David said, lowering his voice, urgency thick in his tone. Their talks of turning the land into a massive resort and they'll bulldoze everything, the wildlife, the history. They see the ranch as an opportunity to cash in as quickly as possible without any concern for the community. The words shook something loose inside Jack. The ranch wasn't just land. It was home, heritage, a living testament to generations of dreams. Everything he had fought for, Everything he had held on to for Sarah, it felt as if everything was suddenly in jeopardy. "We can't let this happen," Sarah exclaimed, the fire in her eyes igniting once more. "Dad, we have to stand our ground." "Right." Jack anchored himself with his daughter's intensity. He turned back to the developers, stealing his resolve. "You're not just purchasing property. You're about to disrupt lives. You don't know what this land means to our family, to this community." The lead negotiator tried to interject, but Jack cut him off. "You'll be tearing down history while you chase a profit. We can't let that happen." With newfound determination behind him, Jack looked at Sarah. "We're going to fight for this together." "Absolutely," she replied, fierce pride sparking in her gaze like wildfire. David chimed in. "We can use community support. Somebody in the town has already organized a group. We can rally people to fight this proposal legally. If we bind together, they won't be able to touch this land." The developers exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence wavering under the weight of opposition they hadn't anticipated. Jack felt the tide beginning to shift. In that moment, the pieces fell into place. "You want to collaborate?" Jack directed back at the lead negotiator. "Join us in making this ranch a space for the community to thrive. Keep it as history rather than destroying it for a quick buck. It's what we want." "Fighting is one thing," the negotiator said, regaining some composure. "But this is business. And what about principles?" Sarah countered, her voice steady as concrete. "You can still reach for profit, but not at the cost of everything this land represents. Join us and we'll create something better. Something that honors its legacy instead. You're not just here to buy, you're part of this." The developers assessed the table, trapped between greed and the hint of a new opportunity unfolding before them. Jack could feel hope blossoming inside him, buoyed by the growing unity around their shared vision. "Maybe we can negotiate a partnership," the lead negotiator finally responded, scratching the back of his neck nervously. "It can be beneficial for all parties involved." The atmosphere shifted, the world outside the diner, thick with tension, slowly reawakening with the vibrancy of possibility. Jack felt Sarah's hand tighten. Around his, the fear replaced with a warm collaboration. They were a team ready to face whatever came next together as they dived into discussions, laying the groundwork for a future that embraced their past. Jack looked at Sarah and felt a swell of pride. She was no longer just his daughter. She was his partner, his ally. Together they forged their path forward, a journey woven with the love for their family legacy, the ranch and the home it had always been. In the days that followed, they rallied the community, their voices sturdy like oaks amidst turbulent winds. The energy around them was collective and fierce. The ranch stood on the cusp of transformation, rebirth, not just for themselves, but for those who called this land home. They would protect not just the property, but everything it flourished with: dreams, memories, and untold stories twisting through the fabric of time like wildflowers in a field. And as they walked together into the future, one filled with promise and perseverance, Jack realized that sometimes a loss leads to a greater victory. A rekindling of connection that binds families, communities, and legacies together in an unbreakable way. "Thank you, Sarah," he whispered as they stepped through the threshold of that diner, leaving behind not just a meeting, but the fear of losing who they were. "Always, Dad," she replied, a soft smile warming her features as the sunset painted their path ahead. They weren't just fighting for a ranch anymore. They were fighting for a way forward. Together. Don't wait not even one more second to join this journey. Subscribe immediately to this channel for more exclusive stories that inspire change and transformation in your life. Drop a like now to help feed the algorithm that grows our community. Leave a comment below with your feelings about this incredible ending, and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of family and connection. This is the moment to show your support.